Can the camera on the OnePlus 6 keep up with the camera on the iPhone 10?
Spec-wise, they're pretty close. They have the dual camera, they record video in 4K, but that one is nearly half the price of the iPhone 10.
This is OnePlus 6 versus iPhone 10.
You'll notice the OnePlus has a slightly wider field of view, which means you get more in the shot, but it starts to warp the trees and buildings around the edges of the shot.
For general shots of landscapes and scenery, the photos on the iPhone tend to look brighter with richer colors, while the OnePlus looks duller with less color saturation. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, and of course you can always adjust this later. The OnePlus is more true to life, as you can see in this photo of a car on a foggy San Francisco day.
It's the same with the murals. The iPhone makes them look better than they were in real life, which is probably how you would edit it yourself, but it's a matter of preference.
The OnePlus also has a Pro mode in the default camera app that gives you more control over things like ISO, focus, and white balance.
With video, the differences are more pronounced. Video on the OnePlus has a lot of contrast, and the changes in light and movement aren't as smooth as on the iPhone.
If you shoot at 60 frames a second at either 1080p or 4K on the OnePlus, it's relying only on optical stabilization, so you get a lot more shaking.
They both record slow motion at 240 frames per second in Full HD. The iPhone's shot is a bit clearer and smoother, but the OnePlus also gives you a super slow motion option at 480 frames per second at 720p, which is pretty cool. And at 2x zoom, the iPhone 10 really pushes ahead. The OnePlus relies on digital zoom, while the iPhone's telephoto lens serves as an optical zoom to get a clearer shot.
The same applies to zoom in photos, but in this situation, the OnePlus actually holds its own. Side by side, this shot of the restaurant looks good on both images, and it's only when you crop in on the labels that you can see how much detail the iPhone is able to get.
The iPhone 10 also uses the telephoto lens for portraits, which means you'll get a narrower field of view when you're in this mode, with a lot more detail in faces. The OnePlus has a second 20-megapixel lens dedicated to portraits, so it can get a much wider shot with that blurred background effect, which has a more dramatic blur. This works great when you want to capture more than just a face.
In general, the iPhone is a bit more accurate at discerning what to blur and what not to blur, but it's by no means perfect. And neither one nails the color temperature. The iPhone makes people look slightly redder with more contrast, while the OnePlus washes out skin tones.
So this one is kind of a toss-up because the results weren't always consistent, and it depends on what type of portraits you're planning to take.
Both also have portrait mode on the front camera and use software to create the blur.
But getting the effect on the iPhone is tough, and when it does get it, well, see for yourself. The blur on the OnePlus was more consistent and looks sharper thanks to that 16-megapixel camera versus the iPhone's 7-megapixel selfie camera.
I prefer the warmer tones from the iPhone, but the wider angle on the OnePlus lets you fit more into the shot. And the OnePlus doesn't flip your selfie like the iPhone does, so it's basically a mirror image.
But for video, it's the opposite. The OnePlus gets a bit too close for comfort, and the contrast makes it seem harsh, while the iPhone's image is a bit more flattering.
Both phones produce sharp photos with great colors, even in less than ideal lighting situations.
Some shots I prefer the OnePlus, others the iPhone, but there was no clear winner in this category, at least in stills.
Video in low light looks much cleaner on the iPhone, but neither have great audio, and if I had to choose one, I'd go with the iPhone, as the OnePlus can distort when it gets loud.
Just hold me tight, tell me you're listening. Dream a little dream of me.
The iPhone 10 wins for video and zoom, but the other categories aren't as clear.
We love the OnePlus for its true-to-life colors and its wide-angle portraits, but the iPhone makes shots look more vibrant and you get more detail in those portraits.
What is clear is that the camera on the OnePlus is able to compete at the same level and sometimes even outperform the iPhone despite the price difference.
So which one did you guys pick as the winner? Leave us a comment and let us know what else you want to see us compare next.
And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell.